Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. It's crazy when you feel as though not one, but two of your teams, the Dallas Cowboys, the Texas Longhorns, if you're like myself and happen to be a fan of both, it's like, geez, this is the opportunity for us to really strike. You like the things that both of your teams are doing. And then a global pandemic comes and this ridiculous year of 2020 happens, and you may or may not get to see everything that you wish for as a fan, with coaching staff changes, player acquisition, guys being developed that weren't being developed before, attention to special teams on both ends. It's crazy the similarities between my two teams, my two children, if you will, the Dallas Cowboys and the Texas Longhorns. But today, we all got the painful news. I mean, for anybody, it's no more. It's not. Can't be any more painful than what it is for Gerald McCoy, who goes down with the torn ACL in practice, and it sucks. It sucks because he was one of the kind of the first low-key, nice veteran signings, guys who were a little bit past their prime, but still very, very productive, and putting him together with the Terry Poe and seeing what we were going to put together in this defense, and most recently the Everson Griffin signing. I didn't even get a chance to speak on that, literally stealing him from the Minnesota Vikings in free agency. And it's funny because I've had fans from that are part of the NFC North reach out and say, geez, you guys got him 1 year, $6 million deal. That's an unbelievable steal for a guy that, whether I listen to friends that are Lions fans, Packers fans, like, we had to face that guy 2 times a year, and we really wanted to go after him. So, looking at potentially having a defensive line under Mike Nolan that featured Tank Lawrence, Terry Poe, Gerald McCoy, and Everson Griffin as your starting front four was, I guess, too good to be true, and they took Gerald McCoy from us with the torn ACL, and it sucks. Because of the leadership he was, he can still provide the team, but when you're rehabbing, in terms of that on the field presence, really being that just better anchor, just an upgrade even from a Malik Collins, who wasn't terrible and was a very highly graded pass rusher and had a very effective first step. But with Gerald McCoy, which you were going to get against the run as well as pass rush help, and being in that rotation, taking pressure off of the guys behind him, whether it was a Tyrone Crawford, many people questioning if Tristan Hill is going to make the team. I'll get to him in a second. But I was excited for this front seven as a whole. We signed Aldon Smith, taking the chance on him, incentive-laden contract, a guy who at one point in this league was one of the most dominant pass rushers for the San Francisco 49ers. Looks to have gotten his life back on track. We have no idea what we're going to get from Randy Gregory, but if we get anything at all to positive, we all know how talented he is. And I believe this is actually the perfect defense, the perfect scheme, where we're trying to be more multiple, different looks. Tank's going to be standing up. We're hearing all these wonderful things we've always wanted to hear. Cheeto's out here talking about we're finally trying to disguise our coverages. And the optimism I have for our team, I'm not even going to touch on the offense today because this is really centered around the front seven that I'm still very excited about despite the loss of Gerald McCoy. But we already know what Coach McCarthy, the addition of CeeDee Lamb, we're hearing about Tony Pollard tearing up camp. We know that side of the football is going to be fine. And I'm going to assume with all the data people, analytics people, we won't be horrible in special teams. But where I was really, really excited for us to make a gigantic leap, and I've said this countless times, where we've been losing these playoff games because we've seen the offense be productive even in the playoffs, whether it was Tony Romo leading charge or Dak Prescott. We've seen this team put up, 27 points plus in playoff games and lose because they couldn't get stops. They couldn't get off the field. They couldn't get pressure, especially when we were playing Aaron Rodgers. And no one knows this better than Mike McCarthy, who was on the other sideline when he eliminated us multiple times. And now we've got that built up with this front seven, because even with Gerald McCoy out, I still have my ends of Tank Lawrence, Everson Griffin, with a rotation of Aldon Smith, We'll see what we get from Randy Gregory. Has some really underrated guys like Bradley and Nye out of Utah, and Dorrance Armstrong and Joe Jackson, and pieces that have flashed in terms of Joe Jackson, Dorrance Armstrong, and then a guy to push him and Bradley and Nye. We'll see who makes the team and who doesn't. I don't know how many defensive linemen they can keep. I know the discussion of the interior defensive lineman was probably keeping around 4 to 5 guys. Now, how that changes with the loss of Gerald McCoy, now's the time to step up, now or never, for Tristan Hill in particular. You are our first draft pick last year in the second round. I was, very critical of that pick. Rod Marinelli puts his badge on the table, doesn't work out for us last season, don't get that production we needed, and he shows the same immaturity problems he had at UCF. Now here we are. Gerald McCoy trying to take the young man under his wing. He goes down. Now Tristan Hill, you've got to step up. You've got to at least show some of that development that Malik Collins ultimately showed before he went now as a member of the Oakland Raiders following Rod Marinelli. But I've got to see that motor from Tristan Hill. I know the first step in the lateral quickness is there, especially, which is unusual for a guy his size, and that's what makes him such a frustrating person to analyze and diagnose. But I do have Tyrone Crawford, who can play inside, outside. You don't want him taking too many snaps on the inside, and he's also been banged up recently. So, the health concerns there if they decide to bring another guy, which leads me to my next point, why the Cowboys invested a third-round pick in Neville Gallimore from Oklahoma. We saw Neville Gallimore make an enormous leap under Alex Grinch in the Oklahoma defense last year. And he's a guy who's very, very disruptive, another person who's very, very quick. And I think complementary to this defense will look good in that 3-tech spot, playing next to Dontari Poe, and when he rotates with Antoine Woods, and if we keep a guy like a Justin Hamilton. But whatever that spot is, they've got to be the person that's the disruptor, because teams, I don't think, will be able to load up on DeMarcus Lawrence, just with Everson Griffin being on the other side and being really on the same level as a pass rusher and a player, and somebody that I think the Cowboys really will be able to count on. And we all liked what we saw in terms of, the beginning of Robert Quinn, and even a guy, what was like a Michael Bennett that came on. But unfortunately, those guys had limitations. Robert Quinn ultimately got exposed with, kind of looping out too much on his pass rush technique, and really got exposed in run game. Michael Bennett was more of a situational guy at that point in his career. Now I get the full, true complementary piece to Tank Lawrence on the other side with Everson Griffin. Huge. I finally got my big boy in Dontari Poe, who is right now looking to really regain what he was, the last couple years. I know, it kind of had not a bad year in Carolina, but, needs to get back up to what he was thought of in the league at one point as being one of the better nose tackles in the game. But the depth is there. And then, we have kind of a flip with LVE and Jalen Smith behind them, how that works out. Actually having Jalen playing more to his strengths. I like the freelance role, especially in Mike Nolan's defense. Looks like with the big boys in front, having a little bit more protection for LVE, who is a short tackler, probably takes a lot better angles than Jalen, in my opinion. But now utilizing Jalen as, to me, his strength has always been going forward as a blitzer, whether it's an A-gap guy, blitzing off the edge. Those are the gifts he showed at Notre Dame, if you go back and look at his tape, and playing more of a will type of position. So I still like the front seven is the best I've seen it look from a talent perspective in a very long time as a Cowboys fan. And that's only going to help because there's question marks in the secondary. Even with the drafting of Trayvon Diggs, we don't know what we're going to – the loss of Byron Jones is huge. We don't know what we're going to get really out of the safeties. I feel good about HaHa Clinton Dix. I don't feel great about it, whether it's Donovan Wilson or Xavier Woods or whoever else rotates in at that safety spot. There's a lot of questions back there. In the corners, we have a lot of guys in the room and a lot of capable guys in the room. But I do think, and I've always said, I like to build inside out with my defense. I don't think San Francisco had elite guys on the outside. Even Richard Sherman, who, if you're asking to cover for 5 and 6 seconds, that's not his thing. But he's elite. If he's got a pass rush in front of him and he can read and react very, very quickly, especially with his length and what San Francisco built their defense based upon the inside, being dominant in the trenches. And that's what the Cowboys have to – they're getting back to that. It is a step back with Gerald McCoy. It is. But it's not the end of the world. I still love this front seven. We have depth for a reason. And look, the NFL, this goes to the same point I just made in the Texas Longhorn video with the unusual times we're in. Injuries are going to be crazy just with the lack of OTAs, a lack of camps, and just things popping up. Just today, we saw Robert Alford go down with a torn pec, I believe on the Cardinals. We saw Jared Hurd go down on the 49ers, the wide receiver, which just sucks because he's been injured a little bit since he came out of Baylor. So, you're going to hear things pop up of guys just going down. Now, how your depth is built out and even when it comes to if somebody tests positive, next man up, those type of things, we'll see how they do the rosters and whatnot. But I do think from a depth perspective, the Cowboys are also better than what they've been in previous years. So I'm still excited. Get well soon, Gerald McCoy. It's tough, but I believe with Tristan Hill hopefully trying to grow up and let this be the beacon of light that he needed to finally get his opportunity to be an effective member. Tyrone Crawford stays healthy, and Neville Gallimore just gives those guys a push. This is a real great opportunity for Neville Gallimore to really solidify some positioning right off the bat in the rotation that may not have been there before. So y'all let me know in the comments, my Cowboys fans out there, how you feel specifically about the defense. That's what we're talking about. And if this loss of Gerald McCoy really, really tanks you, or if you're still optimistic like I am in terms of the entire outlook of the defense under Mike Nolan. Guys, I appreciate y'all. Hit me in the comments. Please like, share, subscribe, grow on the platform, talk about my favorite teams, Fanatic Perspective, over and out. Thank you.